She thought he was just her $5 blind date, but he was a millionaire single dad who changed her life. Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss any of our new dramatic stories. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in creating more touching and emotional tales like this one. Your support truly means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. It was a quiet Friday evening in a small diner just outside of Seattle, the kind of place where the smell of coffee and baked pie filled the air and the sound of the jukebox played softly in the corner. Olivia, a 32-year-old woman with dreams that never quite worked out, sat nervously at the table near the window. She glanced at her phone again. Her best friend had signed her up for a cheap dating app as a joke, a blind date that cost only $5. What could possibly go wrong? She had laughed earlier that day. The bell above the door chimed. A man walked in tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a simple gray t-shirt and worn jeans. No expensive watch, no polished shoes, just calm eyes and a tired smile. Olivia sighed. This must be him, she thought, half disappointed. A $5 date looks exactly like a $5 date, she muttered under her breath. The man approached her table politely. Hi, are you Olivia? He asked. She nodded with a hesitant smile. Yeah, you must be Eric. He sat down across from her, his movements quiet and confident. I hope I am not too late. My babysitter was running behind. Babysitter? She repeated, surprised. You have a kid? He chuckled softly. Yes, a little boy, 6 years old. Smart enough to run my whole life already. Olivia forced a polite smile, but inside, she rolled her eyes. A single dad? Great. As if this date could get any cheaper, she thought. She had imagined someone glamorous, maybe a lawyer or a tech guy, not a tired father who probably worked double shifts. They ordered coffee. She kept checking her phone, pretending to text. He, on the other hand, talked about small things, the taste of cinnamon, the books his son liked, and how he once tried baking cookies and nearly burned down the kitchen. His humor was dry but sincere. Olivia barely listened. She was already planning how to end this date early. After 40 minutes, she excused herself and said, It was nice meeting you, but I have an early morning tomorrow. Eric only smiled and replied, Of course. Take care getting home. He paid for the coffee before she could reach for her wallet. She left without looking back. The next morning, while waiting in line for her usual latte, Olivia froze. On the cafe's television, a news segment played about Eric Lawson, a philanthropist and CEO of a tech foundation that donated millions to local schools. The screen showed the same man from last night, same calm eyes, same soft smile, standing beside his young son at a charity event. The headline read, Single Father Millionaire Donates $10 million for Children's Education. Her heart dropped. She replayed the moment he said, My babysitter was late. He had not lied. He had not bragged. He had just wanted a normal evening without titles or money, and she had dismissed him as if he was nothing. Olivia felt heat rise to her cheeks. Shame, regret, disbelief all at once. The man she thought was an ordinary $5 date was, in truth, a man who could buy the entire diner 10 times over. But more than that, he was kind, gentle, and real. As she stepped out into the crisp Seattle air, Olivia whispered to herself, Maybe some mistakes are meant to happen. Little did she know, that $5 mistake was about to change everything she thought she knew about love, pride, and second chances. The next few days passed, but Olivia could not stop thinking about Eric. His calm voice, the way he talked about his son, and how sincere he seemed kept replaying in her mind. Every time she saw a father walking with a little boy, she thought of him. She kept asking herself, how could I have been so blind? She had spent years complaining that modern dating was full of liars and pretenders, and when she finally met a man who was real, she walked away without giving him a chance. That Saturday morning, while she was scrolling through her phone, she saw another article about Eric Lawson. This time, it was not about his money. The headline said, Millionaire tech founder balances fortune and fatherhood. The story showed pictures of him holding his son, smiling warmly. It said that after losing his wife in an accident years ago, he dedicated his time to raising his boy while quietly building a technology company that helped fund children's education. Olivia put down her phone and stared out the window. The guilt grew heavier. She could still hear her own sarcastic words from that night echoing in her head. Maybe it was not too late to apologize. But how? She did not have his number, and it would be too strange to just show up somewhere. Then she remembered the coffee shop near the diner. He had mentioned it when he paid for their drinks. Maybe, just maybe, he went there often. The next morning, she went there early. The same smell of roasted coffee beans filled the air. She ordered a latte and sat by the window waiting. Minutes passed, then an hour. Nothing. She started to feel silly. Maybe it was just a coincidence. Maybe he never came here again. She stood up to leave, then she heard a familiar voice. Olivia? She turned around. It was Eric, holding 2 cups of coffee and smiling as if he had been expecting her. Eric, hi, she stammered, her heart racing. I did not expect to see you here. Ugh. I come here every Sunday morning, he said with that same calm tone. My son's at his friend's house, so I get a bit of quiet time. She smiled nervously. That is nice. I am sorry about the other night. I did not realize. He raised a hand gently. You do not have to apologize. It was just a coffee. I did not tell you who I was, and that is on me. No, she insisted. You were honest. I was the one who judged too quickly. You were kind, and I treated you like you did not matter. That was wrong. Eric looked at her for a moment, then smiled softly. Thank you for saying that. He set one of the coffee cups on her table. This is for you. Cinnamon latte, right? Her eyes widened. You remembered? I try to remember the small things, he said simply. They sat together again, and this time, the silence between them felt comfortable. He told her about his son, Ethan, who loved dinosaurs and wanted to build robots when he grew up. Olivia found herself laughing, relaxing, and speaking freely. She told him about her work as a freelance designer and how she sometimes felt lost in a world that measured success only by money. Eric listened without interrupting. You know, he said, money makes life easier, but it does not fix loneliness. That is something only honesty can do. His words hit her deeper than she expected. There was no arrogance in his voice, only truth. When they left the cafe, the sunlight was softer, painting the streets with gold. They walked together toward the parking lot, still talking. Before parting, Eric asked, would you like to come to a community event next weekend? It is for the children's program I run. No pressure. Just come as a friend. Olivia hesitated for a second, then nodded. I would love to. For the rest of the week, she could not stop smiling. She even bought a small gift for Ethan, a toy robot she found in a store downtown. Saturday arrived quickly. When she reached the event venue, she saw Eric surrounded by volunteers and families. He was helping a group of kids build small model rockets. The warmth in his face was different from the one she had seen in the news. This was not the millionaire CEO. This was the father, the friend, the man who cared. When he noticed her standing there, he waved and walked over. You came, he said, clearly pleased. I promised, did I not? She replied. Ethan ran up to them, holding the little toy she had brought. Thank you. Dad said you made this for me. Olivia smiled, crouching down. I hope you like it. I love it, the boy said, hugging it tightly. Then he ran off to join his friends. Watching him, Olivia felt something shift inside her. For the first time in a long while, she felt calm. It was as if all the noise of her busy, lonely life faded away. Eric looked at her quietly. You are good with him. She smiled, meeting his gaze. He is easy to love. For a brief moment, their eyes met and lingered. Something unspoken passed between them, something soft, something real. Neither of them said a word, but both felt it. And as the afternoon sunlight faded behind the hills, Olivia realized that this second chance, this unexpected reunion, might be the beginning of something she never believed in anymore. A real connection born from a $5 mistake. The following weeks felt like a quiet transformation in Olivia's life. She had gone from a woman chasing deadlines and doubting love to someone who looked forward to Saturday mornings with Eric and his son. Their meetings were simple coffee at the same corner cafe, helping at the community center, or watching Ethan's soccer games together. Yet each time, the connection between her and Eric grew deeper. One evening, after an event for the Children's Foundation, Eric offered her a ride home. The city lights shimmered across the windshield, and the soft sound of jazz filled the car. Olivia looked out the window, her heart both peaceful and restless. Eric, she said after a pause, can I ask you something personal? He nodded without taking his eyes off the road. Of course. Why did you go on that $5 date in the first place? You are a millionaire, a philanthropist, and, well, you are not exactly the type to need dating apps. Eric smiled slightly, his eyes glinting with reflection. I suppose I wanted to meet someone without all the filters. The people I meet usually want something from me, attention, money, or status. That night, I wanted to be just a man, not a brand. I wanted to see if someone could like me without knowing my last name. His honesty made her chest tighten. She looked at him and said softly, I wish I had known that sooner. He glanced at her briefly. If you had, you might have treated me differently, and then we might not be here now. The car grew silent again, but it was not an uncomfortable silence. It was warm, like two souls beginning to recognize each other. When he stopped in front of her apartment, Olivia turned to him. Would you like to come in for tea? Eric hesitated, then smiled. I would love to, but Ethan is waiting for me. Rain check? Rain check, she repeated, smiling. Days passed. Their friendship deepened into something neither of them dared to name. Olivia began spending more time with Ethan, too. She would help him with his school projects or read him stories while Eric prepared dinner. She found joy in the smallest things: Ethan's laughter, Eric's quiet glances, the warmth of a home that felt like it had always been missing from her life. One Friday afternoon, as they packed up after another community event, a woman approached them. She was elegant, confident, and clearly familiar with Eric. Eric Lawson, she said, smiling. It has been too long. Victoria, he greeted, shaking her hand. It has. How are you? I am well. I heard your company's next project might collaborate with ours. I would love to discuss it over dinner, she said, her tone suggestive. Olivia stepped back, feeling an unexpected twist in her stomach. She knew she had no claim over him, yet the sight of that woman standing so close to him made her chest ache. Eric noticed the change in her expression. This is Olivia, he said quickly, a friend who helps with the children's program. Victoria smiled politely but dismissively. A friend. Of course. Olivia forced a smile and murmured, I should go check on Ethan. She walked away before anyone could stop her. That night, she could not sleep. She replayed the scene over and over, the word friend echoing painfully in her mind. She wanted to believe that what they had was something real, but maybe she had imagined it all. The next day, she avoided his calls. She needed space to think. Yet when evening came, there was a knock on her door. When she opened it, Eric stood there, holding a small paper bag. I brought dinner, he said. Ethan wanted to say thank you for helping with his science project. Olivia hesitated, then stepped aside. Come in. He placed the bag on the counter, then turned to her. You disappeared today. Did I do something wrong? She looked down, trying to find the right words. You called me your friend. Eric exhaled slowly. I did, because I did not want to make things awkward in front of Victoria. The business world loves gossip, and I wanted to protect you. Protect me? She repeated softly. Yes, he said. You deserve to be seen for who you are, not as someone attached to me. I never meant to hurt you. Her eyes softened. Then what am I to you, Eric? He stepped closer, his voice low. You are the reason I started to believe that love might not be over for me. The words hung in the air, quiet but powerful. Olivia's breath caught. She wanted to say something, but before she could, Ethan ran into the room carrying a drawing. Look, Olivia, it is you, me, and Dad at the park. The moment broke the tension, and she smiled, kneeling down beside him. It is beautiful, Ethan. Eric watched them both, a warmth spreading across his face. See, he said gently, that is what I meant. You belong in our story. For the rest of the evening, they ate together like a family. Laughter filled the apartment, light and unguarded. And when Eric and Ethan finally left, Olivia stood by the window, watching them disappear into the night. For the first time in her life, she realized that love was not about perfection or appearances. It was about showing up, again and again, even when things were uncertain. And maybe, just maybe, that was what made it real. The next few weeks passed quietly. Olivia and Eric saw each other often, but something unspoken lingered between them. Ever since that night in her apartment, their conversations carried more meaning, yet both were careful not to cross the invisible line that separated friendship from something deeper. One chilly evening, as autumn leaves began to fall across the streets of Seattle, Eric called and asked if she could meet him at the park where Ethan liked to play. When she arrived, she saw Eric sitting alone on a bench, his expression serious. Hey, she greeted softly. Where is Ethan? At a friend's house, he replied. I needed to talk to you without distractions. Her heart tightened. Is something wrong? Eric took a deep breath. I received an offer to expand my company overseas. It is a huge opportunity for the foundation and for Ethan's future, but it would mean moving to London for at least a year. The words hit her like a wave. London, she repeated. That is, far. He nodded. I have not decided yet, but I need to think about what is best for my son. He deserves stability. I just did not want you to hear it from someone else. Olivia forced a smile, though her chest ached. That is amazing, Eric. You have worked so hard for this. You deserve it. He looked at her, searching her face. You sound happy for me, but your eyes say something else. She looked away. You and Ethan have become a big part of my life. I guess I am just not ready to lose that. Eric's voice softened. You would never lose us, Olivia. But deep down, they both knew that distance had its own way of changing things. That weekend, they attended what might be their last community event together. Olivia helped the children paint banners, while Eric gave a speech about hope, education, and gratitude. When their eyes met across the crowd, she felt tears forming, though she smiled through them. After the event, as the sun dipped below the horizon, he walked her to her car. Neither spoke for a long time. Finally, Eric said quietly, If I do take this job, I want you to know that you changed my life. You reminded me that love can be gentle again. Her throat tightened. And you reminded me that kindness still exists. He reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face. No matter where I go, that truth will stay with me. Olivia wanted to say something more, but the words refused to come. She watched as he turned away, the cool wind carrying the last echoes of their laughter through the empty parking lot. That night, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The memory of his touch lingered like the faint warmth of sunlight after a storm. For the first time in years, she realized how deeply she had fallen and how hard it would be to let go. A week later, Eric confirmed his decision. The company's board had approved the London expansion, and the move was set for early winter. Olivia tried to act strong when he told her, but inside she felt as if something precious was slipping away. Every memory of him, their coffee conversations, the laughter with Ethan, the quiet walks through the park, seemed to replay in her mind like scenes from a dream she did not want to wake from. In the days that followed, she helped Eric prepare for the move. She designed farewell posters for the foundation event, organized files for his volunteers, and even helped pack some of Ethan's toys. They worked side by side, pretending everything was normal, but every time their hands brushed or their eyes met, the silence between them grew heavier. One evening, after everyone else had gone home, Olivia stayed behind to finish cleaning the community hall. Eric appeared at the doorway, holding 2 cups of hot chocolate. One last late-night cleanup together? He asked with a gentle smile. She smiled faintly and took the cup. You are impossible to say no to. They sat on the wooden floor, surrounded by boxes and scattered decorations. The soft hum of the vending machine filled the silence. Finally, she asked the question that had been sitting in her chest. Do you really have to go? Eric stared at his cup before answering. It is the right thing to do. For Ethan, for the company, for the foundation, but it does not make it easy. You will be amazing there, she said, her voice trembling slightly. They are lucky to have you. He looked at her then, his gaze steady and full of something unspoken. And what about you, Olivia? Who is lucky enough to have you? Her heart skipped. I do not know anymore, she whispered. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The world outside the windows was quiet except for the soft tapping of rain. Then Eric reached into his pocket and took out a small envelope. I wanted to give you this, he said. She opened it carefully. Inside was a plane ticket, Seattle to London. Open return. Eric, she began, her voice breaking. He smiled gently. I am not asking you to come. I just want you to know that the door will always be open if one day you decide to walk through it. Tears filled her eyes, but she managed to nod. Thank you. That means more than you know. He stood, offering her his hand. Come on, let us lock up. As they stepped outside into the cool night air, Olivia felt the weight of both gratitude and grief. She knew that this was not just a goodbye, it was the kind that left a mark on the soul. And as Eric's car disappeared down the road, she held the ticket close to her heart, not knowing if it was a promise or a memory in the making. Winter arrived sooner than Olivia expected. The morning Eric and Ethan left for London, the sky hung heavy with clouds. She stood at the airport's glass railing, watching them walk toward security. Ethan turned back and waved the small toy robot she had given him months ago. Olivia waved back, forcing a smile that did not reach her eyes. Eric looked over his shoulder once, meeting her gaze for a fleeting second. No words were needed. His eyes said what both their hearts already knew: thank you and goodbye. When their plane finally disappeared into the gray sky, the emptiness settled in. Days turned into weeks, and Olivia threw herself into work. She took more freelance projects, stayed late at cafes, and filled her evenings with noise to keep the silence away. But no matter how busy she became, she could not escape the echo of Eric's laughter or the warmth of Ethan's hugs. Every night, she found herself staring at the envelope he had given her. The ticket to London sat inside like an unanswered question. She would open it, look at the date, then close it again. Sometimes she imagined walking through the streets of London, finding Eric at a park with Ethan, and seeing his face light up when he recognized her. But then she would shake her head and remind herself that people move on. One rainy evening, as she sat by her window with a cup of tea, her phone buzzed. It was an email from Eric. "Seattle still feels like home sometimes. Ethan misses your stories. How have you been?" Her heart leapt. She typed a reply but deleted it twice before settling on, "I miss you both too. I have been keeping busy. How is London?" He responded an hour later. "Busy, beautiful, but not the same without you." Olivia smiled through the tears that gathered in her eyes. It was simple, gentle, and exactly what she needed to hear. For the first time in weeks, she allowed herself to hope again. From that day on, they exchanged messages every few days. Photos of Ethan building rockets, updates about the foundation, notes about her new design clients. Slowly, the distance between them felt smaller. Their words carried warmth across time zones, filling the spaces that silence once owned. One night, Eric wrote, "There is a charity gala next month here in London. It is important for the foundation. I wish you could see it." Olivia stared at the message for a long time. Then she opened her drawer and took out the ticket he had given her. Her hands trembled slightly as she ran her fingers over the embossed letters Seattle to London. For the first time, she did not close the envelope. She placed it on her desk, next to her passport. Outside, the city lights reflected against the rain-soaked streets. Somewhere across the ocean, Eric and Ethan were starting a new chapter. And perhaps, Olivia thought, it was time she did the same. She whispered softly into the quiet room, "Maybe some goodbyes are not meant to last forever." 2 weeks later, Olivia finally made her decision. She booked a flight to London using the same ticket Eric had given her. The night before her departure, she barely slept. Every possible thought ran through her mind. What if he had moved on? What if she was too late? What if this journey ended in heartbreak? Yet deep down, she knew she would regret it more if she never tried. When her plane landed, the London air was crisp and cold. The city stretched wide with gray skies and historic buildings that seemed to whisper stories of their own. Olivia checked into a small hotel near the Thames, took a long breath, and pulled out her phone. She typed a simple message, "I am in London." Then she waited. Minutes passed before her phone buzzed. It was Eric. "Where?" She smiled and replied, "By the river. The one you told me you liked walking by." It took less than 20 minutes for him to arrive. Olivia saw him from a distance, his familiar stride cutting through the winter fog. When their eyes met, all the months apart melted away. Neither spoke at first. Eric simply walked up, his expression a mix of disbelief and quiet joy. "You came," he finally said. "I did," she answered softly. "You said the door would be open." He laughed gently. "And it still is." Oh. They stood together by the water, the city lights reflecting on the surface like tiny stars. Eric reached into his coat pocket and handed her a small folded drawing Ethan's picture of the three of them at the park. "He made this yesterday," Eric said. "He misses you." Olivia held the paper carefully, her heart swelling with emotion. "I missed both of you too." Eric's voice grew tender. "Maybe it is time we stop pretending to be two people living separate stories." "Yeah." She looked up at him, eyes glistening. "Then let us write one together." And as the wind brushed past them, the distance that once divided their worlds quietly disappeared. The following morning, sunlight spilled softly through the hotel curtains. Olivia woke to the sound of her phone buzzing. It was a message from Eric. "Ethan cannot stop talking about you. Will you come for breakfast?" Her heart warmed instantly. She got dressed quickly and made her way to their apartment in the quiet London neighborhood. When Eric opened the door, Ethan ran straight into her arms. "I knew you would come back," he said, his laughter bright and full of life. Olivia hugged him tightly, feeling tears of joy rise in her eyes. Breakfast was simple pancakes, orange juice, and the kind of laughter that felt like home. For the first time, everything seemed natural. Eric looked at her across the table, his expression gentle. "You being here feels right," he said quietly. Olivia smiled. "It feels like I finally stopped running." Later that afternoon, they walked through Hyde Park together. Ethan held both their hands, swinging between them, his laughter echoing through the trees. When they paused by the lake, Eric turned to her and said, "You changed our lives, Olivia. I thought I was done with love, but you reminded me what it feels like to hope again." She looked at him with tears in her eyes. "And you reminded me that love is not about perfection. It is about showing up, even when it is hard." Eric reached out and took her hand, holding it firmly. "Then let us keep showing up for each other, for him, for whatever comes next." And in that quiet London afternoon, surrounded by falling leaves and the sound of distant laughter, they both knew their story had finally become real. Months passed, and life in London settled into a rhythm that felt both new and familiar. Olivia found work as a freelance designer for one of the local art studios, often collaborating with Eric's foundation to design posters for charity events. Every morning began with laughter, Ethan rushing around the apartment searching for his backpack, Eric trying to make breakfast without burning the toast, and Olivia smiling at the sight of it all. The once lonely woman from Seattle had found herself woven into a family that felt like it had always been waiting for her. One Saturday, the foundation hosted its annual charity gala in a glass-covered hall overlooking the River Thames. Olivia helped with the final decorations, making sure every table was perfectly arranged. When she stepped back to admire the glowing lights and music softly filling the air, Eric appeared beside her in a dark suit, looking every bit the confident businessman she had once seen on television. But now, his eyes no longer seemed distant or guarded. They were warm, grounded, and full of gratitude. "This looks incredible," he said, glancing around. "You have a gift for bringing life to every space you touch." She laughed softly. "You mean for making chaos look presentable?" He shook his head. "I mean for turning places and people into something beautiful." Her heart fluttered at his words. Before she could respond, Ethan ran up, dressed in a tiny vest and bow tie. "Dad, can we tell everyone the big news now?" Eric smiled and knelt down. "Not yet, buddy. Soon." As the evening unfolded, the event was a success. Guests laughed, donations poured in, and the speeches ended with a standing ovation. When the lights dimmed slightly and music began to play, Eric took Olivia's hand and led her to the small stage. The crowd quieted. "There is someone here tonight," Eric began, his voice steady but filled with emotion, "who has changed not just my life, but my son's. She came into our world by mistake, through a $5 date that should have lasted one evening. But that mistake turned out to be the greatest blessing I have ever received." Olivia's eyes widened as the audience turned toward her. Eric continued, "Olivia, you showed us that love does not have to be perfect to be real. You reminded me that second chances are worth taking. And tonight, in front of everyone who has watched our journey, I want to ask you one thing." He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small velvet box, and opened it. Inside was a simple gold ring that shimmered under the lights. Ethan clapped his hands in excitement. "Say yes, Olivia." Tears filled her eyes as the entire room watched in silence. "Eric," she whispered, her voice trembling, "you already changed my life the day you walked into that diner. Yes, 1,000 times yes." The crowd erupted in applause. Eric slipped the ring onto her finger, and Ethan threw his arms around both of them. For a moment, time seemed to stand still, the lights, the laughter, and the sound of the river outside blending into a single, perfect memory. Later that night, as they stood by the water, Olivia leaned her head against Eric's shoulder. "It is strange," she said softly. "Everything started with a $5 mistake." Eric smiled and kissed her forehead. "Maybe it was never a mistake. Maybe it was fate taking the long way around." Ethan's laughter echoed behind them as he chased bubbles across the grass. Olivia watched him and whispered, I used to think love was something you had to look for. But maybe it finds you when you finally stop running. Eric nodded, holding her close. And when it does, you never let go. Oh, the lights from the city shimmered on the surface of the river, reflecting their silhouettes as they stood together, the woman who once believed she was unlucky in love, the man who had stopped believing in second chances, and the little boy who brought them both together. Their story, born from a simple misunderstanding, had come full circle. And as the night faded into dawn, Olivia finally understood that the best stories are not the ones we plan, but the ones that find us when we least expect them.